Perfectly put. I just gotta maybe step on the gas pedal a little because we're a little bit short on time. So
Mhm.
if you guys are ready, let's move on to the final part of this story. And this is the last part of this particular story, I promise. Right. And this is just kind of like maybe a word of warning um, to everyone, to Canadians in general, that we really do need to be safeguarding our democracy because I know like this doesn't, I'm not trying to imply that these people represent all liberal supporters or even most liberal supporters, but I've seen some tweets online from certain people that are liberal supporters, let's just say, who are upset that they lost the Toronto St. Paul's by election that I think are pushing us down kind of a dangerous pathway, right? And so, what do I mean, right? Here's an example. So, this is a person named Vicky Campbell, and apparently she's a liberal supporter, right? And she tweeted after the results were announced that the conservatives won the St. Paul's election, that she said, I hope they're keeping their eyes open yesterday for ballots arriving in trunks of cars for Toronto St. Paul's by election. So, what she's implying here is that like the whole night the liberals were leading, right? And then all of a sudden at the very end the conservatives jumped up and overtook the liberals and won the election. So a lot of people are saying like, hey, isn't this suspicious? So what happened, if you're willing to just spend literally 5 minutes looking into this, is that they counted the advanced ballots at the end, right? And advanced ballots were overwhelmingly pro-conservative because the people who are super mad at Trudeau, they wanted to just cast their vote. There's nothing that Trudeau can say to like change their minds, and they just want him out. So they like most people they just voted in the advanced polls, who are kind of very determined to get Trudeau out of that riding. And to get the liberals out of that riding, right? And the people who vote on election day itself, maybe they're comprised of more kind of split and swing voters, right? So that's kind of what happened, in case you were wondering. But Ms. Campbell here has, without evidence, asserted that or suggested that this election is suspicious, and like let's look out for like trunks of like fake ballots from suspicious cars arriving at the Toronto by-election polling stations. And I think this is a dangerous road to go down, right? And the second tweet is that somebody named AMC tweeted that how can Elections Canada account for their error in communicating the correct polling station info to eligible voters in Toronto St. Paul's, and the impact of their mistake that may have had on this extraordinary close race? How many incorrect mailers were sent out and not followed up on directly, and how many voters were affected? So there is actually some merit to this, where Election Canada, they did admit that some electors in Toronto St. Paul's received a voter information card with a mistake of the polling station's address. And this happened, on June 14th. So this happened maybe like a week before the election was due to take place. So they mailed out the new like correct information cards, and then they did kind of fix this mistake. But some people are arguing like, this is a week before the election. This is too late. Some people like might not have gotten the card on time, and all this stuff, right? And because of this, like if you see that comment at the end, somebody was saying like we need to rerun the election, right? And I'm not like denying that this is like a problem if they mailed people with like information cards that had the wrong address. But first of all, they fixed this issue, right? And also like you could really quickly just do a Google search online and find the correct address if you like don't know the address and stuff like that, right? So yeah, I don't think that this was a large enough issue to change the outcome of the election. Maybe you guys would disagree with me here, but I think that this is just kind of like copium, to like put it bluntly. And yeah, the last kind of tweet that I wanted to share was some guy named Charles, who said, odd, isn't it? The Canadian media is trying so hard to convince Canadians that they don't want Trudeau. So, um, yeah, what do you guys think about that one? Is the media trying to convince you that Trudeau is maybe not the best prime minister that we've ever had? Are you puppets of the media and being influenced, or yeah, what do you guys think of any of these tweets in general?
So I'm just gonna scroll up real quick here. So I think in terms of the overall voting for like St. Paul's, Toronto, I mean, arguably maybe there were mistakes in terms of like, who received their, voting card or whatever the story may be. Like, there's like discrepancies in like the way people were supposed to be voting. I think it's kind of close, but I think seeing as how I want to say there's about like 1,000 vote like gap between conservative and liberal. That's like not a small number, not like a few hundred. That's still a pretty substantial number. And then let's say there are like a few correct votes or like correctly made votes that are made in the future. If it does happen, I don't know if that would necessarily make a difference because I personally think Canadians are like sort of made up their mind and like want some sort of change. Um, and in terms of like the media, like trying to make us like not want Justin Trudeau, I think if you wake up every morning as a Canadian and you genuinely experience life, you can tell that there's a difference in the way life is lived in Canada compared to like being here like long ago, like maybe like 10 plus years ago, because I've been like born and raised in Canada for a pretty long time. And as of recent, a lot of things have changed in terms of like the cost of living and etc. And I guess the first person you point to because of this like situation is the leadership. So even without the media, I'm sure people are having these type of discussions and disagreements with the political system. So I'd say it's not even the media, but obviously the media may have a piece of the pie, but I think there's more elements to it. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and just before I pass it to you, Tristan, just to be clear, I'm not bringing these tweets up and stuff to try and like dunk on the liberals or anything like that. I'm bringing this up because I feel that the left is kind of guilty of doing the exact same things that they accuse the right of when it comes to questioning election efficacy, right? So when we saw this when Trump lost the 2020 election, where people were suggesting, yeah, like there's problems with the vote counting machines, the vote count is fake, blah blah blah, right? And then now we have liberal supporters kind of coming out of the woodwork saying that, how could we have this like error that might have influenced the outcome of the election? We should maybe rerun the election, and they would not be saying this if they won the election. By the way, right? I guarantee you that. And then we have people suggesting like let's try and look out for suspicious cars arriving with trunks full of ballots and stuff like that, right? And this stuff is dangerous because it subverts our democratic system, right? So when we have people that from left or right that don't trust our electoral system anymore, where if somebody wins an election, we could say, oh, like they must have cheated, right? There's no way that they won, like, and we lost, like they must have cheated. So I'm not gonna admit that they won. Like that's some big problem in a democratic society, right? So let me toss it to you, Tristan. What do you think of what I just said and what all these tweets were saying?
Yeah, I think the tweets were just classic. My team lost and I'm mad about it. Which was the vibe that I got, Oh, it's the same vibe as when Trump lost, as Andy you were saying, where it was like, oh, I lost, boo hoo, I'm so mad, I'm so sad. I'm gonna claim that the ballots were faked and everything, and it's all fake, and this election is false because I lost. Obviously, there's no way I could have lost without it being a fraudulent excursion. So I think it's just you know very hypocritical of the left to go throwing it after criticizing the right for doing the same thing, and then they're coming here and like, oh, it's all fake, blah blah blah. So you know again, I'm not saying that there wasn't voter fraud. I'm just saying that them calling them out the same way as the right did is not really a great look. And the Elections Canada replacement cards thing is like, I feel like it's a classic incompetence factor. I feel like every year there's at least one voter incompetence card somewhere along the way, and I don't think that it's necessarily intentional. It's just like incompetence. So, and the whole Canadian media trying to convince Canadians they don't want Trudeau. The Canadian media is trying to convince us we don't want Trudeau. It's trying to convince us we don't want Pierre. It's trying to convince us we don't want Jagmeet. The Canadian media is just loves negativity, and I feel like that doesn't necessarily. It's not necessarily just a Canadian media factor. It's just all media in general, because negativity does really well. No one wants to read about, look at this cute beaver picture, right? That cute beaver that is very cute and very great will get less clicks than Trudeau has destroyed Canada, blah 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 blah, right? Particularly if it's a news entity, right? So I just don't think I don't think the Canadian media is doing anything differently than what it has done in the past and what it continues to do now.